we're here. We're on the Couch Convo panel. We still have our special guest, Arthur Hamilton. And we brought in our political correspondent and also co-creator, the Jew himself, Eric Abbenante. What's up, bro?
The white guy. Hey.
Right.
As you guys know me.
You know what's up.
Right. How much money you spend this week, Eric?
It's more about how much money did
Zero.
It's more about how much did you save by percentage of your actual wealth, and I did a great job.
So good.
It's calculated.
Arthur, you always have like the dopest shirts, bro.
Thanks, man. You know what I'm saying? My mom actually got this one.
Oh, that's cool. Okay. See, that's one of my favorite shows, Legends of Chamberlain Heights. Y'all definitely go check it out. It's a funny black cartoon on Comedy Central. Go check out the last 2 seasons. I actually met one of the creators, Josiah Johnson. Cool dude. He took me out to lunch and everything. Just dope. And like I support the show because it's hilarious. So if you haven't watched it,
it's funny because my mom she bought me a bunch of shirts and I was like, what the fuck is this, mom? This is like a little kid shirt. She was like, I don't know, just wear it.
You know, black moms get like I paid for it, you wear it, boy.
Just wear it, David. It looks good.
It's a hilarious show, man. Like, it's one of the blackest shows on TV. It's hilarious.
And speaking of which, speaking of a black awesome show that you should support, there's Blunts and Brunch.
Yes.
And the thing about his mom is she's really the uncredited stylist of the show.
Right.
She's always styling you, man.
She styles me up. You know what I mean? Shout out to my mama.
You know, on the like one of my favorite characters on Legends of Chamberlain Heights is like the oldest brother who he was supposed to be this huge basketball player. And he got injured and he like smoked a bunch of weeds and now he just like lays on the couch.
Oh shit.
It's hilarious, man. But they throw a lot of political discourse and cool conversations in the show along with the comedy. And one of them is what we're going to talk about today, the decriminalizing of marijuana. They tackle that in the show. And so that's what we're going to be talking about on our Couch Convo today. The criminalization of marijuana and how mass incarceration has been put in as a system to keep that and uphold it. So we're going to talk about it. You know, thankfully we're not in prison for smoking weed. Thankfully we're out here.
I got arrested for it.
Oh, for real?
That's one of the reasons I had to move back from Arizona.
Shoot, no, for real? What happened?
I got a felony. So I was this is the same night I got the fucking DUI too.
Damn, this was a bad night, dog.
Yeah, it was fucked up. All my friends were fucked up. I had a beer at 9 o'clock. I got pulled over like 3 in the morning. I had like less than half a gram on me.
Yeah.
Like it was like 500 milligrams.
What?
So it was like crumbs. So like I had a piece and I had a grinder. So he pulled me up or whatever, get me out the car, get the weed or whatever. It's a felony. It's a classic felony.
It was in Arizona.
Yeah.
Arizona's tough.
So I went to jail that night. Everything, man. Ended up I was working for a bank. So then I went to go get a license for investments.
Yeah.
Because it had been long overdue. Like I was good at my job and everything. I wanted to get paid more.
Mm-hmm.
So I went to apply for that and they ran my background again. Then boom, it came.
Felony.
And I had to pay all this money to They were like, they wanted to get money out of me. That's all it is.
Yeah, that's all the justice system.
It's just like...
Tickets, parking tickets, everything.
Yeah, it was either the collection.
Yeah, it was either the alcohol or the weed. And so, like, I really just, like, just took I don't know, I guess I just took the task charge. It was some weird way of doing it. I had to do the drug program and pay all this... Had to pay all this money, all these court fees, and then I had to pay every week.
That happened to me. That happened to me right before I went to college. I got caught with about, like, less than a gram on me. One night, and it wasn't enough for them to take me to jail or do anything. They wanted to get money out of me, so I had to pay a couple fines in court.
Yeah,
and that's really all they care. They want money.
Yeah, that shit is crazy, and it's fun. It's funny too because I really noticed that they just wanted money because they were like, you can still smoke weed while on this.
Yeah, they told me the same thing. They said
you just have to get your medical marijuana license, and in Arizona it's like $300.
They said I had to take a drug test, but they said it's not a big deal if you don't pass it. What does that mean?
Yeah, it's fucking stupid.
They just wanted money, and that's why even like we talked about before, that's why these private prisons are able to do what they're doing because it's cash for profit.
Yeah,
and that leads me to what I was gonna say is like you guys have these like terrible stories. I'm white, so I have none of these stories.
You smoke more than both.
Yeah, I smoke more than like pretty much all the people in jail for marijuana combined. And I smoke so much weed, and it's like for white people, our stories are like, bro, I got like 2 ounces at once. It was sweet.
Yeah.
You know, and we have the opposite stories, and it's because
you got the almost stories. I almost went to jail.
Right. But the cops never like look to us, and they always will give us the benefit of the doubt if they do get us.
Good kid.
Yeah.
You know better. I'm gonna leave this grass with you. You go home, okay?
Right.
And then I would smoke that shit up right there. And my first hit, I'd be like,
maybe driving
fuck
with
cops.
yeah, that would be like, it's just both. The difference between how cops just proportionately treat minorities and also poor people, like the fact that I've always been in decent neighborhoods means that I can avoid a lot of these issues. Yeah. Like when I would buy weed in Utah, which is an illegal state, everyone would know, go to the rich white cities like Sandy, because that's like where all the, that's where all the rich white kids are. But the adjacent city to Sandy was Midvale, which is one of the poorest and one of the most brown places. And if you bought weed, if you drove by Midvale to get to Sandy, you would see like multiple people getting pulled over by cops, probably, for drugs sometimes. And it was definitely like a lot of brown kids.
Yeah.
And it's like, all you had to do is get past the poor brown area to the rich white area, and then all of a sudden you were free to go.
Okay.
I would buy weed at the church. Like that was the safe spot to buy weed because the white rich church, no cop will ever go there.
No. That makes sense.
That makes a lot of sense because police presence is so heavy in low income minority areas, and that's why police shootings have gotten even bigger on the news and things like that. Because if you're already in this place and you're looking for trouble, you're gonna find it. But it's just as many, and so like it's just as many white people as black and brown people doing drugs, smoking marijuana, but there's more black and brown people in prison for it, though.
But yeah, to get tied back to your point, actually, they say white people do more drugs and they do more illicit drugs, and yet they're in jail so much more proportionally less.
Yes.
And this is where the privatized prisons, this gets really tenuous because you're literally making money off of taking people in jail, taking away their voting rights, and then using them for pretty much slave labor. And which gets me to my point, this is pretty much like, you take away slavery, they do Jim Crow, or sharecropping. Then they take away sharecropping, they do Jim Crow.
Right.
You take away that, then now we're at the privatized prison era, the drug war era, where it's like, oh, we're going to disproportionately get communities of color, poor people, put them in jail. We'll make money off of their labor.
Nothing.
And not only their labor, but they get paid by the government for filling these quotas of beds. And that's all they see. For me and you, it's like I see you as Arthur and Niles. For a cop, it's like filling my quota. And that's why they treat you like that, and it's really disgusting. And there's also racist stuff behind it. But like that's part of how they like train themselves to see you, and it's like that's the fucked up part about our criminal system.
Yeah, and the documentary that was really good about it, 13th on Netflix by Ava DuVernay, was amazing at breaking it down how, like you said, this is basically the new form of slavery is criminalization of drugs and what they're doing with private prisons because they're for cash profit. Like you said, they have a number they have to hit. I remember the state of Florida a couple months ago was a prison that needed to fill 300 beds. And so they were telling black people, don't even leave your house.
Yeah, don't, because you're going to get pulled over for any little...
Exactly. And so like they have, like you said, they have to meet a quota. And so when they, I know people that worked in law enforcement in Tulsa, Oklahoma, and they would tell me there were people in the department that literally just pulled black and brown people just to see if they would find something.
Yeah.
That doesn't happen to white people. It just doesn't.
And if you look at the statistics, like how does this tie into marijuana? There are over 100,000 people currently in jail for possession of less than an ounce.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah, it's crazy.
And like for instance, that weed right there, that's about a half ounce-ish. Like we're talking... They had at maximum twice as much as this, and they're still in jail. And
still there, yeah.
And 100,000 people. That is 100,000 people times whatever they get from the government in subsidies for filling their quota in beds. And this is where the drug war. You start to understand why it actually is really racist. Yeah. And it's almost like. Do you feel like they have this helicopter effect over a neighborhood? They're always constantly watching you, and that's the issue with cops is if you're always in that area, you're going to find something, especially if you're financially motivated to do so in multiple ways.
Yeah.
This boy's preaching, damn it.
It is. And so, like, out of those hundreds of thousands of people, the majority of them are black and brown. And that's the problem we're hitting at because now weed has become trendy. we're getting TV shows and documentaries and movies, and states are getting it legalized, and people, the government and different people, rich white people, are making money off of marijuana now. So
much money.
How are you making money off of a substance that so many people are still in prison for? That's evil. And it's just like, for every show that gets pitched to TV that has some white person playing with marijuana. There was a whole show called Weeds that was an amazing show. It went on for 7 seasons about a white suburban mom that sells weed.
So weed, yeah.
And so, like, it was a great show, but then as a black person, the only thing I'm thinking about while watching the show is, what about all the people that are in prison while I'm laughing at these jokes about weed on this TV show? It's that real. Yeah. Because, there are a couple 100,000 people. Those are a couple 100,000 fathers, mothers, brothers, sisters. Those are real people that have families. I know people that are locked up for a dime bag. It's ridiculous. And so we have to get these politicians to pass laws that, reverse those things, because, like I said, I just don't understand how people are making money off something that people are still locked up for. How are we a United States if that's the case?
And how are there 100,000 people still in jail? A lot of those people are in states that are currently saying that weed is now either medical or recreational. Why aren't those people in jail pardoned as soon as that laws happen? But you're saying essentially they're grandfathered into jail? That seems like a really weird technicality. Seems very brutal, cruel, and unusual by, our words in the Constitution and stuff. It's bizarre.
Because think about all the people who are felons. They can't vote. So shouldn't they get their voting rights reenacted? Because it's like, okay, you locked us up and said this thing was so bad, but now all of a sudden it's good, it's okay, and now you're making money off of it. Because there's a thing, there's other crimes. This would never happen with murder, it would never happen with rape, it would never happen with any crime. This is the only one this is happening because it's not a drug, it's not anything evil or immoral or anything like that. It's a plant from the ground that, when used properly, can get you high or even work in healing. And so you have all these people that said that a long time ago. There's marijuana activists that are in prison.
There was proof of it, and they got rid of it.
Exactly.
And they put out a study saying that marijuana kills brain cells, and the way that they tested it was by putting like gas masks on monkeys.
Wow.
And pumping them with the equivalent of 100 joints in like an hour, I think.
Right. That's
and
ridiculous.
They died because their lack of oxygen.
Wow.
So it's like when people tell me, "Oh, wait, weed kills brain cells," I'm like, "Shut the fuck up."
Well, actually,
shut up, you monkey.
There's a weird history of how this all started. There was a newspaper tycoon back in like the early 1900s, and I believe his name was like William Randolph Hearst, and so he had a lot of money invested in paper. And there was a competing venture, this new thing called hemp. Mm-hmm. You can grow hemp. I can tell you, as a person who's grown weed before, it harvests every 3 to 4 months, which is really unusual for a plant. It grows really large. So like the potential for it to be used for a lot of things like rope and I've heard it can be used as cement. Like there's so many random things you wouldn't even think of it can be used for, like infrastructure things. And so William Randolph Hearst, who was the tycoon of this newspaper industry, who had money invested in paper as the foundation of this country, he used his newspapers to publish stories about Mexicans and Negroes. That was the word he used to that they raped white women when they were on this substance, and they got wild.
And they would have white women listening to their funky jazz music and
it's
stuff.
It's crazy how history repeats itself, because that's exactly the kind of things Donald Trump was saying to give precedence to building the wall. Mexicans are bringing rapists and all their thugs and all this kind of stuff. It's just like racism. It's like the same.
Was that the guy? Did that guy also have something to do with Reefer Madness?
I think that was later, but that's where I was about to touch on this point. This is where the Reefer Madness thing builds from, because it's like it literally gets you mad and rapes white women.
You touch white women,
and that's usually, as you well know, it's like that's like one of the touch points emotionally that they always use to get after the public, especially back in those days. Is like, oh my God, they're gonna come after your white women. And it's like
prized possession.
Yeah, it's just insidious. But that ties into what we were touching on earlier. All these people who are in jail for marijuana, they have their voting rights taken away, which is kind of a way of targeting a certain group who they know that they vote a certain way. You can see the monologue in the beginning and see what we're referencing. They know that black people are a monolith. They vote a very certain way, and if they all vote Democrat and you're a Republican and you want to take down Democratic voters, this is a way you do it. And Reagan was really the heart of this. So
exactly. Look who supports private prisons and criminalizing marijuana. Republicans. Hard right leaning Republicans. Marco Rubio. I read about how he was funded like by a couple $100,000 from a corporation that runs a private prison. That's why I was telling people not to vote for him, because he was going to keep these things going. And so you see, it's like a crazy lunatic way of taking away voting rights from black and brown or poor people in general, and because they know who they vote for, and it's awful. But the state of Florida was a state Hillary Clinton could have won, but it was like 300,000 felons in Florida, and like a couple hundred of those were black men, and so it was a lot of votes that she could have got in Florida, but this criminalization.
And the same thing with Gore before her. Gore also famously lost Florida, and the exact same thing happened to him, and it was much closer. It was hundreds of votes, maybe thousands of tops. Like, that's all he needed. He was even closer than Hillary taking the whole thing and erasing George Bush. And so you could literally say that taking away the voting rights of black men has caused us to have George W. Bush and Donald Trump instead of Al Gore and Hillary Clinton. And so that's a price white people have to pay. You put black people in jail, they're your best ally. They are the ones, like I always said in my stand-up, Jews and black people are like the canaries in the coal mine of oppression. They're usually the first ones to get hit. So once you know they get hit, everyone else will get hit. And so those are your best allies, the people who always are, the subjects of discrimination. And then when those people get hit and you don't do anything, guess what's going to happen? You're going to live in a country like where you live with Trump and live with George W. Bush.
Man, that's good. I don't even know where to go after that. That was great.
Oh, thank you.
That was amazing. Hey, he knows his weed. He knows his white presidents. He knows his history.
And by the way, we've been drinking Can-Aid out of this orange juice, and I can tell you right now, it's amazing.
It makes you feel really relaxed.
I feel great. Like, I'm really angry about white supremacy, but you can't even see it on my face.
This is how good weed is, even as we're talking about the injustices of people who are on weed. The THC just calms us down.
Mary Jane is just telling us, "Hey, baby, it's all right, baby. Just relax. I'm right here with you. You want something to eat? You want to watch a show?"
Sure. And why should people go to jail for that?
Yeah, it's fucking bullshit, man.
So that's why Secret Black People Meeting is calling on our congressmen, our senators, all these kind of things to start passing bills and laws that can reverse these charges to get our people out of prison
and make it recreational. Don't make it medical, because there's so many weird loopholes with medical. Like, for instance, let's say we shared this weed together. In a medical state, it's like sharing a prescription.
Yeah.
Oh no! Yeah. And what if your prescription crosses with my prescription? Oh no, you might but that doesn't happen with weed. So it doesn't make sense to compare it to pills.
Yeah.
And so why are we doing this medical thing where it's like, it is a medical thing, but it should also be recreational, because that's a step beyond medical. Yeah. It's not just medical.
It's not scientifically.
It's something you can share with friends. It's safe. No one's ever overdosed on it, ever. Right. I am trying. I'm trying every day to be the first one to overdose on weed, and it's never going to happen. Dreams do not come true, and that's how good weed is. My favorite dream will never come true, and I'll be so high, I won't give a fuck.
He's trying.
He tried.
We're going to keep an eye on him.
This guy tried to OD on weed and couldn't.
Every day. Every day.
Right. So you take 12 Tylenols, as Cat Williams says, that'll be your last headache.
Your last headache. Your last headache.
Shout out to Cat Williams again. What a callback.
Once again, man.
Hey, but that has been great. This has been such a great episode. We had our new Channel 310 star,
Bam.
Arthur Hamilton.
I don't know why I keep doing this.
Right,
this is
weird.
corny.
Stop, don't do it.
It's
you might not get an episode 2 doing stuff.
That's why I'm doing it.
Check out his show, Blunts and Brunch, now on Channel 310. Only on Channel 310.
Check it out, y'all. Shit's funny as fuck,
super
man.
funny.
It's gonna be a lot of fun every week, man. We're gonna be
every weekend. We're
smoking it up.
Having brunch with Arthur. And then thank you so much to our political correspondent.
I'm gonna do the Arthur Hamilton.
There you go.
Yeah, it looks better when Eric.
It looks way better.
That's the only time I've ever
Because
told
it's a corny white guy doing corny white guy things.
Right.
I look like an Uncle Tom.
Eric, straight up. Eric Abbenante, producer, writer, co-creator on Secret Black People, meaning he makes this show run, and he's also our political correspondent when we're talking politics.
Thank you for having me on.
Yeah, hey, we got you, bro. Broke it down specifically. He's trying to OD on weed. I don't know what that means. I'm gonna stay away from Eric for a couple days.
Yeah,
But hey, this has been Secret Black People meeting. Go Dodgers. Let's win that World Series. Y'all have a good night. See you next week.